people who enter homes for a living, maintenance, cable contractors, etc. What's the strangest thing you've encountered when entering someone's home? Speech pathologist here. I've encountered a roach closet, as the family called it. They had towels stuffed under the door and they said it's where all the roaches are hiding. They lied. The roaches were everywhere. I'm a builder in London and one of our clients strangely kept her old used underwear behind the radiator. As I took the radiator off the wall, they all just dropped. Then my dad aka boss made me put them in a rubbish bag and I proceeded to heave and gag whilst putting them in the bag. 0/10 experience. Fire department responded to a call of a house fire from a residence. Alarm company unable to contact owner. On scene to a beautiful 2-story wood frame home. No fire or smoke showing. Made our way inside and as soon as we got the door open we noticed 4-foot stacks of newspapers everywhere. This huge home had so many papers stacked that there was only a small pathway from room to room. We got to the kitchen to find an elderly person under a pile of papers on the floor that had fallen on them while they were making breakfast. The bacon caught fire and set off the alarm, but didn't set any of the stacks in the kitchen on fire. We clear the papers and start to treat the patient. All of a sudden we hear a huge cracking sound, and the floor shifts a couple inches. The weight of the papers was too much for the house to handle. Emergency dragged the patient out of path of papers to get outside. Patient was okay physically. Come to find out that the shifting we felt was actually the floor collapsing. Little did we know that the bottom floor was full floor to ceiling with newspapers and in effect stopped the collapse since the floor couldn't fall any farther. Newish house had to be condemned and ultimately torn down. Never found out where all the papers came from. The customer's house I was at had one of those plastic Coke bottles that had the share a Coke with filled with what I'm almost positive was someone's ashes. It was on a shelf with some pictures, and one of those small funeral cards with the same name as the bottle next to it. This gives me a really weird sense of existential dread. Imagine your final resting place being a Coke bottle. Going into hoarders' homes is the worst. Sometimes they have boxes of crap stacked from floor to ceiling and literally have a single maze style route through their house apartment. Then when you're done working they say something has gone missing and accuse you of taking it. Nobody wants whatever random trash you think is missing. Yeah, it's like I apologize but I couldn't resist helping myself to your Kinoki foot pads that are covered in rat pee. Not. I worked as a home inspector for a while after land surveying work went away. After the property crash in 2007-8, I saw a couple of weird things including one couple in their 70s who had their own Frick dungeon replica set up in their attic. They even had life-size posters of full frontal nude body shots of younger people with the couple's faces photoshopped on the models. Adult toys and bondage stuff were laid out in the room. They were very nonchalant about the whole thing. One thing that bothered me the most when I was doing the work, people would sometimes leave their young children alone to let me into the house. If I knocked on a door and a child answered, I would ask to speak to an adult and if no adult was available, I would politely tell them we would have to reschedule and I would leave. I refused to go into a house with just a child present. The people I worked for backed me 100% on that as well. A lot of people come to the door just wearing towels. Women in t-shirts and panties. Very strange. But one time I went into a home where a guy had tunneled through the shared basement wall and killed his neighbor. It was creepy. Oh yeah, one guy had a bunch of mannequins behind the furnace. Scared the frick out of me. One more I forgot about. Guy was into BSDM. Had chains on the walls. Also toys and whips. He was very friendly, but I hightailed it out pretty quickly. People ask me how I can go into strangers' houses as a woman. Honestly, I don't really think about it. A dead body. I work in healthcare and part of my job involves visiting the elderly who can't make it to my clinic. I was visiting one of my regulars last year when after knocking at the front door, she shouted through the window to use the back door. I get into her house, and there was an open coffin blocking the front door, with a dead body inside it. Turns out she was Catholic and was holding a wake for her brother, who had recently passed away. Strangest coolest thing I encountered during my in-home internet tech support job was at an old gun nut's home. One of the rooms was a museum of death, filled with stuffed trophy heads of every animal native to the area. Another room had 4 or 5 weapon safes. Finally we get to dude's office, which is much more normal than the rest of the house. While we're waiting for his System 8 Mac to boot, I look at the pictures hanging on the walls. One of them is clearly the gun nut when he was young, standing at ease in a diving vest and short shorts, while being inspected by President Kennedy. TLDR. Some crazy old dudes who claim to be Navy SEALs actually are. Short shorts are the sign of the bookends of manliness. One of my friends in high school lived in a dilapidated, hoarded tinderbox with his mom and disabled brother. His mom was a sweet lady, but had been dealing with significant family loss on top of caring for a severely disabled son. It was all pretty sad. Among the utter filth, overflowing litter boxes, sink piled with gross dishes, cockroaches, was a cage with 3 rabbits in it, all of whom had skin infections and overgrown walrus teeth. It was actually a scary sight. Poor bunnies. During the worst of the housing crisis I would go into homes, take photos, write a report, and tell the bank how much money they would lose when they foreclosed. At an expensive and large home in an upscale neighborhood I was greeted by a 45-year-old white woman with breast, lip, and butt implants. She was a good-looking woman before all of that and now looked like a porn star. She greeted me with a bored "Go ahead and look around," and I proceed to do my inspections and take photos. I did the ground floor first, then went upstairs. When I opened the double doors of the upstairs master suite I saw 4 meter tall by 2 meter wide portrait of the boardhouse floor stark naked, spread eagle, with her hands behind her head, T pushed out, and an exaggerated O expression on her face. The master bedroom and bath were an easy 2,000 square feet, so it took a while to photograph everything. After about 10 minutes the lady of the house ran up the stairs and screamed "Stop this instant," to which I replied I'm not allowed to take images of people, or pets, or even photographs of people. I can show you on my camera that I have no images of your nude painting. I don't care about that. I thought you were up here jerking off. A neighbor did at our Christmas party last year. Yeah, nope. Was a carer. New client to me. Heartbreaking really. A man with dementia skipping around the house naked, like skipping like a child. Got him dressed and fed and meds. I was just covering that route for one day. Not sure if it was his usual presentation, but sad all the same. Least he was happy. I've seen a lot worse. Like women stuck in the time frame their baby died etc. I'm too lazy to write out all the details, but worked for DirecTV. I climbed under house, couldn't find my glow stick to show where I drilled through the floor. Kept looking and discovered it had been covered by ants that were feasting on dead animals. The guy had been killing animals and throwing them under his house. I called the cops and left quickly. This isn't that weird, but I was installing internet and basic cable to one TV in a 1-bedroom apartment for this young lady, probably in her mid-20s. Finished setting up the modem and proceeded to the bedroom to set up her basic cable TV. I had to move her DVD player momentarily and there was a DVD upside down on it that I left on top of the DVD player as I moved it. Finished the TV install and went to put her DVD player back. This time curious if maybe the DVD is a movie I've seen before. Flip it over and nope. The label says Whorehouse Girls, so I quickly put it back where I found it on top of the DVD player. She comes in a couple minutes later, sees the DVD, quickly but carefully grabs it and while keeping it face down, moves it to her dresser drawer. She didn't know I already saw what it was and I was laughing internally as I finished helping her set up her Wi-Fi. Thank God you set up her Wi-Fi so she can watch P online like normal people. I used to work pest control. Some dude had a mock campsite in his apt bedroom, fake fire, 2-person tent, lawn chairs, cooler etc, etc. This happened today, taking items from an old man's house for a charity program. We were loading stuff from his house into our box truck that he didn't want to take with him when he moved. You all can take this mattress and box spring. Big ol' yellow CM stain on it. Sorry, so we can't resell this because it's got a stain, but we can take the bed frame and the mattress from the other room. Moves mattress. Moves box spring. Moth a load of used tissues on the floor behind the back of the bed. I was working with a crew that was knocking on doors at a seedy apartment complex and evacuating people because of rising floodwaters. Knocked on a door and the door opens and the very first thing I noticed was how bad it smelled. Like straight up BO. Next thing I noticed was the guy at the door who answered was in his mid to late 40s and overweight, wearing nothing but tighty whities. After looking into the apartment for a second, I saw two more gentlemen in their mid to late 40s also sitting around wearing nothing but dirty tighty whities. Now I'm thinking to myself, alright, this is super weird, and then I happened to notice they had no less than 100 guns just lying around in the open. Rifles, handguns, shotguns, a freaking crossbow. So now I'm like, alright, this is some the hills have eyes stuff going on. We told them about the evacuation and left. I still to this day wonder what the heck they were doing. Couple weeks ago the cable internet guy came out to our place and I asked him the same question. Guy's response: he once responded to a multi-million-dollar home in an upper crust neighborhood filled with other mansions. This was a gated community within another gated community. Read. Apparently the previous occupants had a secret room that was an office with tons of phone lines where they were allegedly running some type of big credit card wire fraud operation. They'd gotten busted, so the new owners were having him undo a lot of what they'd done. Dude said it was like something straight out of a movie. Paramedic. Big butt flesh colored corn cob sticking to a sliding glass door leading to a backyard which overlooked the Columbia River. Everyone kept glancing at it through the assessment. I'm sure the fire department talked about it once we transported and left. After the call was over, the conversation between my EMT and I went as follows. Him: you saw that right? Me: dude, yeah, we all did. Him: it was super girthy, like WTF. The house was for an older lady in her 70s complaining of abdominal pain. In my early 20s, I was a contractor doing carpentry work. I got hooked up with a guy who would text me an address and a few basic job details every morning. I would drive there, log my time and materials and bill it out at the end of each week and get paid cash. It was awesome. Always different. The worst one by far was 266 Bridge Street, Carlton Place. Trim to upstairs rental unit. I drive out there, meet with the tenant who was just on her way to work, but she said her boyfriend was upstairs. I set up my work area in the parking lot, head up a creaky set of stairs, open the door, and I'm hit with a stench I can only describe as beefaroni, hot air, canned meat and tomato sauce. The boyfriend is lying on the couch, easily 350 pounds, in a tank top with a blanket covering his bottom half. Thankfully, he greets me, and I get to work. I like to think I'm a professional. I've since worked for some incredibly wealthy people, successful lawyers, doctors, businessmen, a handful of pro athletes, and hundreds of regular, good people. I continue to have good relationships with them because I do good work. There's no bulls. I keep my head down, deliver, and get paid. And that's exactly what I did in this gross apartment. I crawled on my hands and knees making all the measurements, through the kitchen full of dirty dishes and rotting garbage, over the dirty underwear in the bedroom. I suppressed my gag reflex to move aside the crusty Kleenex and tampon filled garbage can in the bathroom. I couldn't get outside soon enough to start making my cuts. When I got back inside to lay out all my baseboard, the boyfriend was asleep, Oprah blasting on the TV. I will never forget that it was just me and Oprah. Surely he'll wake up when I fire up the compressor, I thought. He stayed asleep, snoring, while I fitted, nailed, and caulked the full apartment over the course of about 3 hours. I wasn't quiet, either. When I was done, I washed my hands in the kitchen sink, locked the door behind me, and left. Got a slice of pizza before my drive home from a place called Mr. Mozzarella. Mediocre, at best. I went into a house to do some touch-ups on some wooden window frames. The owner had previously told me about a rat problem, but it was only one rat. She had said it was this monster rat that would jump feet into the air to take down birds. I laughed it off, assuming she was exaggerating. As I'm working on this window frame, I see what looks like a cat running around outside. Then this sucker jumps and I see its big butt tail. It was a rat. It didn't manage to get a bird this jump, but it probably could. I've never seen a rat get so much air. I worked in insurance restoration one summer. Your insurance company called us to bid on jobs from water and fire damage. Got to work on some cool stuff. Original panels from Marvel Comics in the 60s. I think stage costumes from The Temptations. Finding adult toys was a daily routine, so was small amounts of drugs. A bottle of Oxy in a golf shoe under the stairs. Marijuana in the bedstand. Usually we throw this stuff away. We were in a basement in St. Louis. It was part finished and part unfinished. Someone saw something in the drop zone ceiling. Pulled it out, and I crap you not, it was a gallon-sized Ziploc what seemed to be crack. That was the only time I remember us putting the drugs back where we found it and pretended that nothing happened. The sheer quantity scared the crap out of everyone. I work as an electronics technician for Samsung. Walked into a customer's house and the first thing we see is a life-sized replica of Hitler in the middle of his living room with Nazi propaganda covering the walls. Needless to say, we didn't stay for very long. I painted apartments in my teenage years. Went into one guy's apartment and there were dozens of mannequins all over the apartment, all in different fetish outfits. Assless chaps, leopard print, nurse outfits, you name it. We had to move them around to paint, and when the tenant got home he complained to management that we moved his dolls. Guy was really nice though, but so was Bundy according to his neighbors. I worked HVAC for a while a few years back. I was doing a maintenance at this house and their furnace that serviced the master bedroom needed a part that I didn't stock on the truck. I had to run to a supply house to get it and the guy tells me no problem, just let yourself back in when you get back, so I did and I head to the master bedroom to repair the furnace. The dude was plowing his wife when I walked in. He looks at me while he's going to Pound Town and says hey. I kept walking and went about my business. I'm finished repairing the furnace in 20 minutes, but he wasn't. Not really exciting, but I sold Kirby vacuums in the mid-90s. Went on a cold call carpet clean demo. The couple that owned the house had 3-inch shag carpet. Looked like it was from the early 60s that had never been cleaned. There was also a strange smell due to them having reptiles. Anyway, started vacuuming and began ripping and sucking up large chunks of carpet. This place was filthy. Neat and organized but filthy. As I get to the lover seat we pick it up to vacuum. I discover a large petrified iguana. While the couple freak out about their long lost iguana, the vacuum takes out another hunk of carpet and catches the cord for the mini blind in the vacuum, climbs the wall before ripping it off the wall. That was the end of that sales pitch and my short miserable career selling vacuums. Cable tech. Was in an older lady's house and had to keep moving little kids' toys out of the way, rocking horses, little push cars, small dolls, etc. to get back to the wall plates and check some connections. This was in like 3 or 4 different rooms in the house. Didn't think anything of it. I see plenty of kids' toys every day. I just assume this older lady has some grandkids. Whatever. She keeps asking me to please be careful when moving stuff, which I am doing of course because I'm not here to mess anything up. She is like visibly upset that I am moving these toys though and is hovering and watching nervously. So now I am a little more aware and not quite turning my back to her all the way. Haha. I notice there are no pictures of her or her husband anywhere now. No pictures of kids or grandkids. No pets. Everything is immaculately cleaned and spotless and there's no sign of any kids ever having been there. This strikes me as odd because of all the kids' toys with baby dolls on them. I move the push cart back to its original location and she once again asks me to be extra careful, as these are her babies. Snugget. That's when I notice all the rocking chairs, push carts, baby cribs, toy chests all have an actual baby doll sitting on top of them or laying inside them. There are fake bottles, the kind with the fake milk in them that moves everywhere. Random pacifiers, a stack of those little fake baby changing diapers that kids use to change the diapers of their baby dolls. Just all kinds of weird crap. I'm talking like 6 or so little baby dolls in all the rooms I have been in so far except the living room. Just a little creepy. I hate dolls and kids stuff from all the horror movies I've seen, so this wasn't ideal. Had to go outside and change the connectors and ground block in the house box. Do a little outside work. Come back in and she's walking around burping one of the baby dolls. Fuck that. Told her I was finished. Because I was. Got a quick signature and just noped the heck out of there. I realized that she's probably just some old lonely lady. Maybe she couldn't have kids of her own. I don't know her story. I'm sure she has a story. IDC though. I was creeped out and didn't look back. Guess it's mild compared to some other crap on here, but that was creepy as heck to me. Been doing service and installation work for about 10 years now. Been through lots of houses that I have to step out to get fresh air before I vomit because of various potent odors, biologic or otherwise. I have two places that stick out in my mind, both while I worked for alarm companies. Pot dispensaries in California. Those were always fun. The other was at an electrical company's office. The boss lived upstairs. Had a full BDSM photo shoot studio in his little apartment. He asked if I wanted to know more about it, to which I politely declined his offer. HVAC helper for a few summers when I was younger. You would not believe how many people let their dogs and cats defecate in the basement to avoid having to take them outside. And not just in rundown houses either. Expensive McMansions and such. I worked for an electrician a few years back. We were on our way to a house for some electric work. As we drove by this government building, people were outside picketing and protesting a government employee for possessing child pornography. I guess he was well known in the town. When we arrived to this house there were boxes everywhere because the owner was moving. The woman who lived there let us inside and told us what work needed to be done. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. When she finished telling us what to do, she had apologized for her emotional state and had explained to us that her husband of 20 plus years was recently arrested for child pornography. Turns out it was the same government employee. My heart really went out for this woman. The betrayal she must have felt knowing her husband did this is unimaginable. Of course my co-worker sent me to the basement of this house to remove all the ceiling light fixtures. I never came across anything while down there. It was completely empty and cold with barren walls and a concrete floor. But needless to say the thought of it all made me sick to my stomach. The entire house just had this eerie vibe that I couldn't shake. We immediately left the minute the work was finished. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.